Real life. Welcome to Creature Guy Live Daily News. For those of you that don't know, my name is Ethan. Today we're going over a new species of dinosaur discovery over in the Triassic period. And we're streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. From News, new species of Triassic Carnivorous Dinosaur identified in Argentina. New genus and species theropod dinosaur being named Antiavis corylongus has been described by a team of paleontologists from the Universidad Nacional de San Juan, the Museo Argentino de Ciencias Naturales, Bernardino Rivadavia, the University of Birmingham, and Connecticut, and Caglio Bio. A lot of people apparently are on this project. I wonder if it's towards the very early beginnings of the dinosaurs' evolution, especially for possibly the theropod dinosaurs, which were the large group of carnivorous dinosaurs belonging to the Archosaur lineage. And let's see, this is definitely a Triassic background, possibly sauropodomorphs or plateosauromorphs in the center. They're very primitive looking. These might not even be sauropodomorphs; it might be the ancestors to them. This is possibly supposed to also replicate a scenario back in prehistoric Argentina around 230 million years ago. At least that's a timeline that I'm guessing, because we have cynodonts that are dicynodonts specifically. So these are large proto mammals that existed from the late Permian period around 255 million years ago to the somewhat end of the Triassic period around 210 million years ago, and then some other primitive dinosaur forms. You could have it where none of the animals in this picture are necessarily even members of the theropod lineage, and they could have evolved shortly beforehand. So let's take a look into what's going on. Antiovis corylongus roamed Earth during the Carnian age of the late Triassic epoch, 231 to 226 million years ago. Okay, so this is not before the theropod family of dinosaurs evolved. This is around the time when it first occurred. Seems the theropods probably somewhere around 230 million years ago first evolved, especially with members of the dinosaur or the theropod lineage like Herrerasauridae. This dinosaur was approximately 1.2 meters or 4 feet in length and weighed about 8 to 9 kilograms, or pushing somewhere around 20 to 25 pounds. This is average size for many species of carnivorous dinosaurs during the Middle Triassic period. Let's though look up one of their more, I guess, earlier predecessors. So, Nyasasaurus, Nyasaur. Hold on a second. Did it pop up? Oh, okay. So the issue with this specific species of dinosaur is that first, it existed somewhere between 240 to 243 million years ago, making it one of the possibly first dinosaurs. The problem is that it's not a member of the Saurischiae or the Ornithischiae lineage, but more of the Saurischiae, because the Ornithischian lineage of dinosaurs, which is a group that would evolve into different species of horned dinosaurs like the ceratopsians, the stegosaurs, the armored ankylosaurs, and nodosaurs. But they wouldn't evolve until somewhere around the beginning of the Jurassic period, pushing around 202 million years ago.
Okay, is this any good?
For an AI thing, the problem is the guy on the right seems too iguana-like, and um, I'd say the one in the center probably looks the most accurate. The one just beyond it also looks a little too lizard-like or too robust. Nyasasaurus had a very lean and slender sort of a build to it. So I guess you could say, yeah, the bottom one's not bad. The question about the fingers, it might have had 5 fingers on Nyasasaurus, but it is a very like skinny built dinosauromorph. So almost like when you hear of certain types of dinosaurs, like the sauropodomorphs or
Wait,
the
so it is a dinosaur, though?
hadrosauromorph. It's a dinosaur. You could say it's like a somewhat almost proto dinosaur, but even then, a little more dinosaur than what you would consider a proto mammal like the Diacynodonts. Um, it's sort of in between. The problem is that it doesn't necessarily belong to the Saurischian lineage in general. And most other true dinosaurs belong to, at least during the Triassic period, the Saurischian lineage. The Plateosauromorphs, or the this is this is an oviraptor that won't show up until the early Cretaceous, around 135 to 140 million years ago.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, there might have been certain very late Jurassic species, but for the most part, they don't really show up till the early Cretaceous. But that's not for another 100 million years. Nyasasaurus, it's also a big question as to what specifically this animal ate. It's very possible it might have fed on certain small species of amphibians and reptiles. It didn't necessarily have a very strong bite force, even for its size. Nyasasaurus, it's interesting. It has an almost ornithomimid or gallimimus or ornithomimous sort of structure to it. So, but the ornithomimids also wouldn't evolve until the Cretaceous period, but it shares many different Saurischian dinosaur traits. A very elongated neck, also a quite thin and narrow overall skull structure, which is also something similar to what you see in many species modern day birds. Ooh, this is actually wow, this is a really good drawing or yeah, depiction. It gives it a very agile sort of um just structure. And I mean, also the arms look very good.
Brittany asked, was it like a meat eater?
It's very likely that this animal was feeding on different species of insects, small amphibians, and lizards in the region, but likely did not go after any species of dinosaurs, even when it came to one's a tenth of the size. So, this animal likely also had just a very weak bite force. And in fact, there was another species, not necessarily of dinosaur, but it was an archosauromorph, somewhat related to Nyasasaurus that existed back in the Triassic period, called Ephegia. However, it's possible that that specific archosauromorph, since it had extremely weak bite force, like even weaker than Nyasasaurus, it might have simply have been just feeding on certain seeds, but even then, it seems to be that the pecking theory with the other species I'm referring to has been rejected. Actually, let's bring up that other animal, the Ephegia. So Ephigia. So this animal also existed back in the Triassic period, somewhere around 230 to 235 million years ago. So after Nyasasaurus. This you could say is one of the closest living or at the time relatives to the dinosaurs in general, but it is not a dinosaur. Yet it is a branched off lineage of the archosaurs. It's also possible that these animals might have been cold-blooded. It wouldn't have probably been much of a problem considering much of Pangaea or the supercontinent back in the Triassic period was or would have had a somewhat subtropical to I guess you could say in many regions arid sort of a um just atmosphere or climate.
This looks totally different than another one that I have. Well, not totally, but
Well, this is from a book like back in the early 2000s, I think. I don't think they're bad models even for today. The arm structures, they were probably facing towards each other. At least I believe when it comes to these specific branches of archosauromorph reptiles. So they are, in a sense, a bit more closely related to the crocodilomorphs than the dinosaurs are to the crocodilomorphs, which are the large group of archosaur reptiles that would evolve into a wide variety of different crocodile-like terrestrial predators who've dominated the Triassic landscape. Many cases over most of the dinosaur predators. That's interesting. The arms are situated like facing towards the back and hunched up against his core.
I can barely see them.
Now, I like the overall picture. It gives it like this dense, um, like this dense fern and pine like conifer forest. And I think it looks really good. So
But
this
here's the difference.
will also oh whoa wow, did they add feathers to this one? I think I might yeah, this looks better, especially with how the arms are situated. So they are pointed towards each other. It is also quite interesting when it comes to the toe situation, or the appendage structure of Ephegia. And it's very unlike many species of dinosaurs in general, and as well many types of reptiles, though it can be a bit more similar to certain species of reptiles even today, like different types of iguanas. It is somewhat similar. Maybe even certain crocodile monitors. Crocodiles and alligators, however, it is quite different. And I'm not even just referring to how wide they are compared to the overall animal's body structure, but just also how specifically structured in terms of length and I guess curvedness that they are. The arms, when it comes to these animals, it's a really big question as to what they would have been used for, considering they are so small compared to its body size. Obviously, they weren't used for really helping the animal off the ground, because it's likely that they could have crushed their arms under their immense weight, even when it comes to an animal this size, which Ephigio is probably somewhere around 8 feet in length. They're pushing 1.4 meters and probably didn't weigh much more than 100 to 150 pounds, or pushing between 45 to 65 kilograms. And it in, well, not hitting me specifically where Ephegia was. I believe it was over in some part of South America. Nyasasaurus, however, was found over in Tanzania. So it is interesting that, like certain other types of animals, the dinosaurs' evolution, at least when it comes to the more dinosaur morph looking animals, first occurred in East Africa. But this is a very good reconstruction. Also, more recent depictions when it comes to earlier types of dinosaurs, they are being shown with feathers. It's possible also due to the close assimilation to the Saurischian lineage of dinosaurs, which would consist of most of the feathered dinosaurs in general. The later Ornithischians, not so much. So back to the article. The ancient species was an early diverging theropod placed outside the dinosaur group Neotheropoda. Okay, this is also at least, I'd say, 10 to 11 million years after the Nyasasaurus evolved. So this is a likely descendant of the Nyasasaurus, the Antiavis. But it had an unexpectedly derived features previously thought to be exclusive to that group. It is one of the oldest and most primitive dinosaurs known so far, said Dr. Ricardo Martinez from the Universidad Nacional de San Juan and his colleagues. The early diversification of dinosaurs produced a major ecological change in the terrestrial ecosystems, culminating with tetrapod assemblages dominated in abundance by dinosaurs by the Triassic Jurassic boundary 201 million years ago. Tetrapods can relate to many types of land animals in general. You can be referring to an amphibian, a reptile, a dinosaur, a bird, a mammal. These are all tetrapods. However, if you're an arthropod, or just any species of insects, scorpions, fleas, ticks, horseshoe crabs, they cannot be qualified in this specific area. This derives from the lobe-finned fish that came to land uh, back in the late Devonian period, around 375 million years ago, and would evolve into all these different categories of land animals. But the other arthropods in the ocean are not a part of this. Also, fully aquatic fish, for the most part, are not put in tetrapod category because they evolved into that. So let's see. Um, okay, so let's bring up another animal, the Silosaurus. Silesaurus. So this is a species of dinosaur from Poland, but I believe Silosaurus was existing in the region somewhere around 230 million years ago. Um, let's see if at least I'm trying to remember correctly. This is either a proto dinosaur or it's a member of the Poposaur lineage of
Well,
archosaurs.
this looks like it's part cat.
Never mind. Yeah, this is not a true dinosaur. It is a close relative, but yeah, it is quite interesting. These different branches of archosaurs that are somewhat more closely related to the crocodilomorphs, like the later Proterosuchus, Saurosuchus, Postosuchus, yet they're feathered. It is quite interesting. Um, at least that's been the depictions lately. I believe with most of these specimens or most of these animals that have been discovered, there isn't any evidence to suggest that they had feathers, but considering how closely related they are to the earliest dinosaurs, it's very possible they had feathers. This one is odd. It is certainly possible. It might have been that specific pouch that you see on many species of birds today. I don't think it would have an iguana or frill dragon like the specific lizards that tries to make itself look bigger over in Australia. Also, the odd beak-like structure in the front of the skull in this AI image. The whole animal is technically off. It also shouldn't have a skinny look to it. Anytime you see one of these, even closely related archosaurs to the dinosaurs or dinosaurs in general, with a rib cage, that would indicate that the animal's starving. It's not a healthy archosaur in general. This is better. Oh yeah, wow, this looks very good. And it is quite interesting how skinny the arms are compared to the overall size of the animal in general. It probably wasn't very heavily built. They likely had very hollow bones compared to many later species of archosaurs. So, also, what's quite interesting about these specific animals, and I think the poposaurs, or you could even specifically say the shuvosaurs. They have very small feet compared to their body size. Also, just small toes. And for some reason, there's just not a lot of flesh even around or muscle around the ankles, too. Even the lower shins. This is silent. Yeah, this is probably Silosaurus. Okay, so they definitely added more musculature to this animal and also even increased the length of the toes. So I wonder, I wonder which one's more accurate. This is a bit of Yeah, this is a huge guess. I mean, this one looks more proportionate. Like it looks like it has the ability to actually move around and withstand um, some trauma. That other depiction, if it gets hit by some wind, it looks like it's going to just topple over. Here they also added just a few feathers. Okay, let's head back to the article. Oh, it's very possible that this animal was somewhat omnivorous. It's the early Triassic dinosaurs and the different branches of archosaurs closely related to the dinosaurs and the crocodilomorphs. It's a huge guess with many of these animals as to what they would have consumed, considering many of them, like Ephegia, the Silosaurus, the Niosaurus, have very weak jaw structures, and there's a wide range of different types of feeding habits that from different physical analysis on them, they're just not capable of feeding in a wide range of ways. So it is a bit of a question as to how they would have fed. I'm guessing it wouldn't have taken too much in some instances to, I'm not going to say scavenge because there's only so many carcasses that are going to be fresh and out there on the landscape for something to just wander around all of its life looking for just something dead to feed off of. Even vultures have to occasionally feed on live or hunt live animals. Though there is a certain vulture that mainly takes advantage of only takes advantage of animal carcasses, but grabs the bones and then I believe it also uses a stone to break the bone in half so it can get to the bone marrow inside. So, um, it's still a huge guess with the Triassic dinosaurs. I just thought I'd add that in. So, therefore, studying the initial diversification of dinosaurs is crucial to understand the establishment of Mesozoic assemblages. So, this is referring to when it says Mesozoic assemblages or the establishment of them, the different lineages of a wide variety of different dinosaurs, especially since we're referring to in the article a new species of theropod dinosaur um, throughout the dinosaur era. So around, say, 243 to 245 million years ago. That's to 66 million years ago. However, the lack of stratigraphically continuous fossil data in the few geological units that preserve the oldest known dinosaurs, 233 to 227 million years ago, obscures our understanding of this initial diversification. Well, it seems to be here that it's referring to the species of dinosaurs that we know for certain are a part, or it seems to be more agreed upon that they're a part of the theropod or Saurischian lineage of dinosaurs, which there is a certain species of dinosaur that is, well, actually, there's a handful from the early Triassic, especially of South America, Africa, possibly Europe, and North America. That's they're part of Saurischiae, but not Theropoda. Well, also they're part of Dinosaur Morpha, but not the other two lineages derived from that. So if we're not including Dinosaur Morpha, like with the Nyasasaurus, then yes, they are technically much younger by nearly 10 million years. The paleontologists unearthed the fossilized remains of Antiovis corylongus, a partial skeleton and skull. Well, that's good to hear. We found part of the skull of this animal in the Ishwagalasto Formation in northwest Argentina in 2014. The Ishwagalasto Formation, we've actually found a number of different species of dinosaurs here, especially when it comes to the carnivores. We have found different species of crocodilomorphs here, and also referring to the Rausuchians, like not necessarily Postosuchus, but he is a member of that lineage, Saurosuchus, and possibly Proterosuchus. Sauropodomorphs are a bit more rare in this area. Herrerasaurs have also been discovered here. Let's see. Okay, let's bring up a new species of Dicynodont. I was trying to think of a certain genus. Okay, Halicarnaria. So Jalachireria. Okay. Um.
Wait, respell it for me.
Okay. Jach.
That's not what you said. Okay.
Al. Um. Ar. Ia. So did something like a Placerius show up? Okay. So this animal is from, I believe, South Africa during the mid Triassic, around 220 to 230 million years ago. In fact, it's very possible with Hackelariae that this protomammal or Dicynodont could have extended to as far back as 240 million years ago, so coexisting with some of the earliest dinosaurs like Nyasasaurus or Dinosauromorphs. But Hackelariae probably had a very similar diet to um, many other different members of the Dicynodont lineage, like the Placerius. And there have been other species found over in Morocco, Poland, North America, and South America as well. But this specific animal has much smaller, like a sort of a less pointish, sort of a structured beak compared to other members of its kind. It's also overall a bit more, I'd say, slender, or at least the legs are longer compared to its core, unlike, I guess it's just overall size compared to many of the larger species. If you're looking at animals like Placerius tends to put a lot more emphasis into its overall core. It's just a heavily built Dicynodont. However, this specific species, the Hackelariae, is not a member of the Placerinae in general. So it's actually a bit of a distant relative to Placerius. It's still a member of the same family, just not same subfamily, Stacharidae. So that is quite interesting.
I have a question. What is a Wasnikilla?
Sounds like another Dicynodont species, but it's oh, wait, did you just see that? And
Yeah, it was in the same area.
okay. Gosh. Okay, so this was also back in the Triassic period around 220 million years ago. This species definitely was a bit closer to Placerius when it came to just putting more size into its overall core. However, it almost has like a structure a bit more similar to its predecessors, or the predecessors of the larger Dicynodonts in general, the Lystrosaurus.
Says it's wait, hold on. It's a Polish German Dicynodont.
Oh, one of these species. Okay. Yeah, we do have a number that of Dicynodonts. They come from different Triassic sediments over in Germany, Poland, I believe France, Switzerland, and wow. Okay, this one's um you know what is interesting is I haven't seen any like fur follicles, which it's very likely that these proto mammals had fur, despite them not being true mammals. But besides that, he's not sure what to say. He gives a more um hmm.
Well, that looks totally different than that.
Yeah. I wonder if I don't think it's the same species. It
I
might
think
be
so.
somebody
I think
else.
somebody just drew it or painted it.
Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's likely because the Dicynodonts in general didn't really have teeth. They were still feeding on different species or different types of roots, tubers. So explicitly, it seems herbivorous or feeding on only plants. It is a bit of a question as to why, even before the Triassic ended, that this large and somewhat successful lineage of proto mammals went extinct. But technically, by the end of the Triassic, 201 million years ago, all of the proto mammals went extinct, despite being quite heavily adapted for a wide variety of different landscapes during the Triassic period. Maybe, like, there have been certain theories as to a bit of global cooling possibly wiped them out, but I don't know. That's a bit of a tough one to come into agreement with. I think there's other things at play, possibly diseases, maybe the more specialized carnivorous dinosaurs that were evolving were just easily hunting them, but these were still quite powerful animals. So I don't necessarily agree with that either. There are very few places in the world that preserve such ancient and well preserved fossils. One of them is the Santa Maria Formation in the Brazilian state of Rio Grande do Sul. The other is the Esquilasto Formation. Yes, the Santa Maria Formation, we also find earlier species of theropod or saurischian dinosaurs from the Triassic as well, and even different species of Dicynodonts. Let's bring up a large crocodilomorph, and specifically Rausuchian Saurosuchus, Saurosuchus. I think there was another one though. Probably the Proterosuchus, but we can bring him up anyway. He has been found over in the Ishquilasto Formation of Argentina. So Saurosuchus was one of the largest species of crocodilomorphs to exist. Yeah, in Argentina back in the Triassic period, around 226 million years ago. This animal also had very different foot-like structures compared to really any reptiles that we see today. and also for a long period in the crocodilomorphs or the pseudosuchians lineage, which is the major branch of reptiles or archosaur reptiles in which the Saurosuchus evolved from. Yeah, I keep yeah, forget that the Dinosaur Revolution episode, so the show back in 2013, showed a Argentina like Eoraptor, another species of Dicynodont, and the Saurosuchus interaction.
Is that what that is?
Yep, that's him. I'd say he's put on more weight in reconstruction over time.
He was
Here he
eating a
was,
lot.
yeah, here he's much leaner. He's got more of like a sort of walking with dinosaurs, but more agility and a show of like power, like post Suchus sort of a look. Except it's very likely that Saurosuchus would have walked on all fours. Postosuchus did not have that ability. It was strictly bipedal. Also lived in Arizona around 220 million years ago. So, when it comes to Saurosuchus, this animal was pushing 15 to 20 feet in length, or somewhere around 4.8 to 6 meters, and likely weighed probably around 3 to 500 pounds, or pushing between 140 kilograms to around probably 230 kilograms. So this animal, let's see, what was the other thing? Oh yeah, let's bring up this
Well,
other.
230 kilograms at 20 feet isn't that big.
It could have been that the many members of the Prestosuchidae lineage of pseudosuchians were more hollow boned compared to other reptiles or even other types of archosaurs, and that's why he wouldn't have weighed as much despite his length. It's possible he might that I might be talking about a smaller individual, and they could reach over 6 to 700 pounds, but that might be pushing it with the limits, or pushing around 300 kilograms. Okay, let's bring up the other crocodile, the Prestosuchus. So Prestosuch. Oh, he popped up. Okay. So this animal, I believe, is also from South America and Africa during the Middle Triassic period. Yep, this is him. Prestosuchus definitely has a different sort of or a distinct type of a skull structure compared to Saurosuchus. Many members of the Pseudosuchian lineage or Prestosuchidae lineage of Pseudosuchian archosaurs. So these are much more closely related to other crocodilomorphs compared to the dinosaurs or even the ones in between, like the Ephegiae and Silosaurus creatures. So, when it comes to Prestosuchus, it's a bit smaller compared to the Saurosuchus.
This guy looks like a lizard.
That's, I don't know, it's saying, I mean, it might be sort of older or maybe just somebody's distinct representation of a Prestosuchus. It has a very, um, there's some sort of a lizard, maybe a like a horned lizard from Arizona sort of appearance to an extent. Um, But I'd say this one's a bit, more lifelike. That could represent a juvenile, but it's likely that their overall physical appearance, like, they wouldn't have those distinct scale-like structures early on and then, suddenly get rid of them. Not that that doesn't happen with certain types of other, physical characteristics on other animals, but with Prestosuchus, it's also possible that its tail might have been strictly in the air like different species of dinosaurs and not necessarily dragging on the ground like a true lizard, because like true lizards are very distantly related to essentially every member of the Archosauromorph lineage. You could say that there were certain species of marine reptiles like the Cretaceous mosasaurs that are much more closely related to, because it's also likely that certain lizards evolved into the mosasaurs. But when it comes to even these reptiles, they're very far off in the family tree. Prestosuchus, like Saurosuchus, was likely feeding on different species of sauropodomorphs or plateosauromorphs. So early ancestors to the later sauropods that would evolve during the Middle Jurassic around 175 million years ago. And also, they might have had lips. It's showing here with the exposed teeth. It's also probably an earlier depiction. Besides that, I mean, I think it's a good representation. There were also a wide variety of crocodilomorphs, even probably members of the Prehistoric lineage, that were quite agile and could likely run after their prey items too. So let's head back to the article. Entiavis curulungus lived in a warm and arid savanna about 2 million years after the Carnian pluvial episode. So I'm not entirely familiar. I haven't taken a huge look into these different climatic issues, or I guess um, climatic events in different parts of the world, because really just because it's occurring in certain areas of South America like Argentina doesn't mean you're going to have the same climatic event in other parts of the world. So, um, hmm. What is interesting is that we're not necessarily seeing a dense conifer forest like with what different depictions of Triassic dinosaurs tend to have. Um, well, tends to go for the Mesozoic in general. This is almost like something that you see in maybe certain parts of Africa or even North America to an extent in certain parts of the Jurassic period. But I'm also thinking of when there might be extreme drought or dry season scenarios, which you would have had during the Triassic period. We show that dinosaur diversity and abundance in the Ischgualasto Formation were higher than previously recognized, particularly among small herbivores less than 30 kilograms or, 70 pounds? I mean, that was quite average for um, certain types of dinosaurs back then, but you already had much larger species of dinosaurs or herbivorous dinosaurs like the sauropodomorphs already existing at this point. I'm referring to different species of plateosauromorphs that could have reached well over 1,000 pounds or pushing 450 kilograms, and medium-sized 30 to 200 kilogram predators. A 400 or a I guess 70 pound to what two or 450 pound predator back at this point in the Triassic is quite large. They could become somewhat larger. There might have been certain members of Coelophysidae or Herrerasauridae specifically. That's who I'm thinking of. Like a Herrerasaur species that could reach somewhere around 700 to 800 pounds, or somewhere between I'd say like 350 to 400 kilograms. This diversification occurred in Ishkwalasto during a climatic shift to semi arid conditions, but the return of more humid conditions resulted in a gap in the dinosaur record that started at around 229 million years ago. I think what happened was that there was a massive boost in their evolution when it came to the dinosaurs in general. They took advantage of those humid conditions and quickly adapted. And I don't think this was necessarily a slow change of climate over time. I think it was quite sudden. And it tends to occur, especially when you're looking at different climatic events during the Ice Age. It tends to be a period in time where many can relate to. The changes in climate are very instant, and it's not like this gradual over several thousand years. It's like immediate when the big change hits. That's also what happens in evolution too. It's very sudden when it comes to a change in like the structure of a dinosaur, not just its skull, but its overall arm accumulation, its overall like bone density, even intelligence. So only 15 million years later in the Middle Norian age. So this is later in the Triassic. This is like towards um jeez, 210 to somewhere between 210 and 220 million years ago. The dinosaur record recovered its abundance and diversity in the basin, but now it was characterized by larger bodied species. Our findings demonstrate an early dinosaur diversification, probably punctuated by a climate driven faunal turnover in at least southwestern Pangea. So if we're talking about a large area, I mean, this is over in South America and different parts of likely. North America, and probably Africa as well. And there were different shifts over in, like, when it came to the prosauropod evolution, as well as different species of theropods. And this would have occurred for different types of crocodilomorphs. This is also going to affect the marine reptiles in the ocean that have evolved. Also, like different members of the ichthyosaur lineage, or the dolphin like reptiles, in which we have found quite a few specimens of with babies inside their rib cage, sometimes called ichthyosaur pups. Um, okay, well, that's it. And from prehistoric, or thanks for joining. And we are streaming on both Rumble, YouTube, and Kick. And from prehistoric to present, my name is Ethan. This is Creature Guide Live Daily News. Happy International Early Triassic Dinosaur Day. And remember that nothing is better than all animals all the time. So I guess before like 230 million years ago.